Vic, you ready to kick us off?
Yes. Okay, well, the requirements for family engagement are very simple. That you have a meeting one per quarter. That's not too hard to do. However, a best practice would be to have more frequent meetings with parents and maybe even have a core group of parents to help you plan activities that other parents would want to engage in. We have a guide for you that's available on the Iowa After School Alliance website, and we've had this now for several years, and it helps you with family engagement. And thank you for putting that up. There's just a lot of ideas and resources in this guide, and I would strongly encourage everyone to make sure they've downloaded a copy and reviewed it. It's designed to help you. And you can do parent engagement not only for this program, but you can work with like Title I, who has a requirement for family engagement. You can have one meeting and cover the requirements for this program, which is Title IV-B and Title I. So, there's no problem with having one meeting for both programs. And informing parents is what the engagement is all about. We don't expect you to transform parents into reading coaches, math coaches. Look how many times they've changed the way they do math and reading. Parents cannot keep up with that. However, what parents can do is encourage their kids with academics. And keeping the parents informed about what is going on in the after school program is just huge. Plus, you can connect with your community college and have a community college night where parents can learn about how the local colleges provide adult ed classes for them to get better. So, in a nutshell, that's essentially everything you need to know about family engagement. But we're going to actually go down and give you some examples that Barb's going to do from a community that's actually doing well with family engagement.
And Vic, before we pivot to Barb, I know I've heard you sometime address expenses. Is there anything you want to say with regards to expenses?
Well, at the DE, we make a lot of lists, so we check them twice and we try to find out who's naughty or nice. And that is the same thing with family engagement. If you look at your claim sheet, you'll find that you have in your budget money for this family engagement. And, we want to see some spend down. At least in 3 months, you should have had at least one meeting with parents. And there should be some sort of expense in there. And that's one of the things that we use to track at the DE. So if I see 0 in there, you're going to get an email from me that says, hey, did you have any parent engagement meetings in the last 3 months? And you're going to have to then provide documentation. So it's a whole lot easier just to have some expense in there so that I can check my list and say, oh, this person's been nice. They spent some money on family engagement, and go on to the next claim. But beyond that, family engagement will make your program run smoothly, and having the support of parents is always a positive thing.
So Vic, thanks for that. What I want to do is make sure, are there questions? Does anybody have questions that they want to ask Vic about the requirements of family engagement or anything regarding the implementation and execution of family engagement? You can always drop a question in the chat too. There is no dumb question. Definitely want to say that out loud. Before we pivot to Barb, I think, I'm one of those people who always likes to do just a little bit of engagement from all of you that are listening. So who who has done something with family engagement that they're really proud about that worked, or who's done something and man, it tanked, it failed, but you learned from it. Does somebody want to share something that is working locally for you? And I'm sorry to say, I used to be a teacher, and so I'm really comfortable calling on people, and I'm really comfortable with awkward, silent pauses. Don't be shy. Does this mean nobody's doing anything with family engagement? You gotta be doing something.
Hey, yeah, I'll go. This is Christina with the Burt Boys and Girls Club.
Thanks,
A
Christina.
couple of family engagements that we had is that we held a book fair for our kiddos. And then for the fall and summer, we've always done a family orientations where our two schools that we do our 21st century with, those families come in and we do like incentives where we give them like a gift card or raffle to a Aldi's or Fairware, things like that. So those are a couple ones that we've done so far, but we are planning to do another one at the end of May, just like hosting a end of the year party for those families and those kiddos.
And how does the book fair work? Does everybody just bring in their books, and is it like a swap? What is it?
So we actually had a bunch of new books that were donated to us that we set up in our gym, and we sent out emails and flyers to all the families that were able to that wanted to come, and they would come through our gym and walk through it and pick out the books since they were for free, and we had a sign-in sheet. So it was very successful.
And I see I piggyback my family. So this is from Carlson, my family engagement on the school's family night. Before winter break, I bought every family an Uno game and gave it to the students before they left on break, so they could probably play as a family, which is a great idea to encourage game playing together. Any other things that I know we're going to hear from Barb, who is in Oelwein? Are there any other bright spots or failures that you want to share with the group? Okay, so Barb, I'm going to turn it over to you. And if you don't mind, obviously introduce yourself and talk about, some of the great things that are happening in Oelwein, and also give a little bit of information about the size of your district and where you're located on the map of Iowa. That'd be great.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm Barb Schmitz. I'm actually the school elementary counselor, and I'm also the director of the 21st Century Grant for this district. We are remodeling one of our elementaries, so I'm actually in a hallway or an entryway. So don't be surprised if some kids walk by and wave. That's just the way it is these days. We'll be back in our new building by fall. I hope this is an enjoyable presentation. We have a lot of, we had a lot of bombs and we had a lot of fireworks with our family engagement. We have not ever really given up, even during the year that we were in COVID, where we were in school, but we did not have adults come into the building because of cleaning and just fears, I think. So we've done a variety of things. So I want you to know that Oelwein is in Northeast Iowa. Our district has between 67 and 70% free and reduced. That fluctuates all the time. We have had the grant from K all the way to 12. We've had pause years where we didn't get the grant, but something's always been moving and happening. And at this time, we have it kindergarten to this school year that we're living in right now. It's kindergarten through 8th grade. So our family engagement has always been a challenge, and we often have the same families come to everything, which sounds great, but it also causes us to have to be very creative. I do want to tell you, family engagement is a great way to figure a lot of kids out. When you sit with a family or eat with a family, you just have so many insights. And so I want to tell you about our last endeavor. We read that frozen meals is a business now. Like somebody was sharing that with us. So we decided to freeze some meals. And what we did was a taco pie or a chicken option. It was supposed to be like chicken pot pie, but I'm not saying it really looked like a chicken pot pie. But we worked on a Friday after school and we made 40 meals. And then Monday, after when the children were going through the pickup line, because we have drive-ers, we gave out probably 25 of those meals. And then Tuesday, we did delivery to what we would call our children on the bus route. And that was a huge hit. Parents were grateful. The meals probably served, 4 to 5 people. We bought 10 containers. I put in a lot of man hours and women hours over the weekend because I had volunteers coming in to do this. But it was very expensive. So, okay, we ended that experience and we thought, okay, we may not be able to do that too frequently. But as far as appreciation, families were shocked, appreciative. We printed out how to bake this in the oven because everything was pretty much done, but you have to warm it completely through. So we felt that was a hit, but it was also expensive, even though we went to the grocery store and got some of our items locally donated. We have done game nights where we have brought in staff and we've served soup and bread and really bad, inexpensive sandwich cookies that you find totally at the bottom of the cookie rack, in the store. And we've played, Candyland all the way to Clue, just depending. We do not get a huge turnout for that. I have lots of reasons. We've sent out surveys like, what did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? And I'm really facing the fact that people prefer screen time and screen games over actual board games. And, that's been a big hula hoop for me to jump through and be accept, because I keep thinking, oh my gosh, you're not engaging with each other when you're both holding a controller. And even though I might feel that way, that's not how our families are feeling. So I've learned from that. Summer open pool, we have a swimming pool. We can rent our swimming pool for $110 for 2 hours. We've done swimming nights. That's a huge hit. We have a lot of parents who come to that, families. And I don't serve any food at that because it's at the pool and they prefer, they have a concession stand, so they want people to buy their concession stand stuff. We've done Husky Adventure, which is the name of our after-school program, sports nights, where they get free admission into a football game, into a basketball game. And then at halftime, children who have participated, their names are announced and they get to come onto the floor or the football field for recognition. We have done, at parent-teacher conferences, we set up a table. This last time, we served homemade applesauce that we made in crock pots. And as families went by, they could have some applesauce, and we gave out the recipe on how to cook apples. We've done soup at parent-teacher conferences. where we just give out a little bit of soup and in a literally a container they can walk with, or they can sit down in our cafeteria. Our Facebook page is really popular. I can post a picture at 4:10 and we can have like 80 likes by 4:30. That blows my mind away. And I'll be honest with you, I do have a Facebook page, but I only look at it once. I mean, I don't look at it every day. So obviously it's popping up on people's phones. We have found that's the best way to get a hold of parents, send out messages. We also use it for our weather announcements. If we're not going to have it a morning class because we're starting school 2 hours late. I mean, our families are used to that now, looking at that Facebook page. We've had some real bombs where it's just been like myself and 3 other people at the school. You know, we tried to do a talent show. No one came. I had to do my talent. I was the only one with talent and my 2 associates with me. We laughed our heads off, but you know, we've tried things like that. Bomb. Food is such a huge draw. And that's where your expense is. So it's often a give and take. We have a movie theater in our community, and they will, if I can guarantee, you know, 40 people, they'll sell us a ticket for $3 a person and adult and $2 for children. And that's a big hit. Again, we can't serve food because they want to sell their concession stand. And we've given out stipends to buy a bag of popcorn, or I've negotiated with the theater that we could give out the small bottles of water instead of soda. Not that I would stop any parent from buying something. That's been a success. Another thing we've used is we have a bowling alley, and we've accessed the bowling alley. And I don't know if you're lucky enough, but in Owine, we have disco bowling, where they shut off all the lights and the disco ball goes. And that's been so popular. And we can use it on Saturday nights and, you know, buy a package and bring in so many families. And I'm grateful it's Saturday because my disco days are over. And I just go home with this headache because the lights are flashing, but it's a huge hit with our families and our children. High school engagement, we've gotten involved with the financial aid nights where they do free financial aid for college. And we've served a meal at that. That was just a way to get parents. Any sporting activity, even if it's an archery meet, a trap shooting meet, cross-country meet, we might set up a table, give out free water. You know, we have a banner that, you know, we hold for Husky Adventures. Oh, another big bomb we did was I had this idea we'd have a 4th of July float. The float did not go. It ended up just being a hay rack. So I couldn't engage anyone in decorating this float. So, you know, I want to be honest. I think I've tried things that have been awesome and we've had great turnout, but we've also had just like a bust. Another fun thing I did was I brought in a petting zoo, and we had a couple ponies, we had a pot-bellied pig, we had goats. I worked with farmers, they brought them in, it was a 2-hour thing. I thought, I don't know what I'm doing. Huge turnout. I mean, I could not believe all these kids that brought their parents to pet these animals. And I mean, the ducks, the chickens, we did not serve food that night. We just gave out water, and our food court did it, and they did they did cucumber water, and they did lemon water. And so, funny, but that was a big hit. So again, we've just had a number of things happen. I'm getting, the petting zoo was at the school. We put it right by the playground. And I had permission from the city, because we can bring in any animals because they're educational. Sorry for the noise. Any animals because it's educational. So, okay. How about I stop for questions or anything like that?
Barb, I'm going to tee up a couple of questions just in interview style, and then we'll keep going. So,
Okay, I feel like I'm rambling, so if I apologize,
no, it was
guys.
great, and I have to
Okay.
tell you, I don't know about others, I love when people talk about their epic fails, and I
Well.
wish on video I would have had you at your talent show singing
Yeah.
to yourself.
Yes, it was bad.
How do you do any? If you could talk about a couple of things, do you do any surveying of the family community to get feedback on things? The second is, are there typical volunteers, like you talked about the meals and some of the things that you're doing? Who are some of your volunteers that you have found to be very helpful? And then the third is, can you speak to any approaches that you've used to engage diverse families, whether it be by geography, language, ethnicity? Like, are there specialty tactics that you've used to customize to the populations that you're trying to engage? So those are a few questions for you to noodle on.
Okay, our volunteer group is strong because we have a retired senior volunteer program, RSVP, in our school district. And even during the COVID year, they would come and work together. We'd all wear our masks. They didn't want to really be in a big group with families, but again, we weren't bringing anyone into school. So the petting zoo happened outside. But as far as meal prep, serving meals, I call on those people. And in our community, we have about 60 RSVP volunteers. We are so blessed. And that group has been the backbone of every meal I've put on. As far as surveys, we have started to do more surveys online, but I only surveyed children. Like at the beginning, I would just I would have the kids who came fill out a survey of like happy faces to sad faces, or I might 1 to 5, something like that. And, that's how I found out. One of the kids said, which really just piqued my interest, like, my parents think board games are really slow. And I said, oh, you mean like it takes a long time to play? And they were the ones who taught me you can play Clue online, or you can play Candyland online, and it's much more visual. And so I really learned that from my students by the surveys. So just really interesting. I don't know if in the next generation board games will be a lost art. I question that. And the last question you asked was volunteers. No, I missed some questions.
It was about, it was about engaging diverse
yes.
student families. Yeah.
Okay, so we have a smaller population of students of color because we're rural, but we do have a high population of families that would struggle with transportation. So our busing, we go to school bus stops. We also go to a little town that's 5 miles from our school that's in our school district. So actually I sent out buses, and parents and children rode the bus. And I'm not saying, 50% used it, maybe more like 20%, but we would send a bus around and then they would have transportation, because that can be a barrier for a lot of our families because their children come to school on the bus and their transportation is challenged or not accessible. Yes.
I just had a quick question. So I know like, and I come from an education background, and so now I'm trying to do the after school. So sometimes I can get too focused on let's teach them all to read, or
Yeah.
and so I
right.
get a little bit, and then you see, okay, it needs to be a family literacy night and those components. But I've been going back and forth in my mind because I feel like a lot of your ideas are just to get families in, like a petting zoo. You're not necessarily giving them math or reading skills, but
Right.
you're building that rapport and that relationship. I just wanted to make sure that like I'm understanding it correctly, and that does still fulfill all the requirements of the grant and everything, even though it's not like you're not giving out a book or you're not doing any of those. That's fine, correct?
Right. And we are involved with First Book, that company that you can buy books at a reduced price. We have given away books. We've given away like information. Like in the spring, we might give out information on why you should use sunscreen, or if I can find somebody who will buy us some samples of sunscreen. We're always trying to do that, but no, not every one of my events you could say has involved math and reading. We have done, free book nights where a family can come pick up a book. That has a pretty good turnout, but it's hard to engage them. I mean, they don't really want to sit there and read the book. We have done centers where they had to like win a prize by doing a center, and it was a math center. But yeah, we don't get as good a turnout. So I guess Vic would have to answer that question for sure. But I'm all about building relationships because that's the best way to move to the next place.
Yeah, and that makes sense to me. I just all of a sudden, as I was reading through things, I'm like, literacy. Oh no, does it always have to be literacy focused? So, but a lot of your ideas, I think, yeah, they get at the heart of the connection that's needed.
I got the question, as family movie nights worked well. They are awesome. We also partner with the school, and we have to buy a license. And actually a principal did this, and I just piggybacked from her. So we've used our middle school auditorium, and we've served hot dogs, and we provide a night where they can come and watch a movie. Now, here's the deal. Streaming, or I don't know, Disney Plus has kind of taken over our options, but we have done that. I wanted to try a travel log where they come and have this really interesting movie about Africa. And, there's lots of animals and things. I surveyed my third graders, and like 2% said they would come to that. And so I laughed because I was like, okay, that was another idea that might not work. Family movie nights go great. We can get 90 people. Theater movie nights are great. We can get a huge group. So the theater can show newer movies. Through this license, the school buys their older movies. And we took we did Encanto, it's that new Disney movie. We took students there and families, and that was a huge hit.
Barb, that's great. And Fiona, I appreciate you asking the question. I'm going to read a couple comments, and I think there's another question. So first of all, Billy Stone said, Oak Ridge put on a skit with students and invited parents to watch. We also served a light meal. We also had home cookie activity. We sent materials home, and the families made cookies and took pictures and shared, which was great. Fiona asked if the petting zoo was at the school, and I think we answered yes, it was outside. Billy Stone asked, how do you get staff to volunteer for activities? And this is what I was going to ask too, so I'm really glad to hear that. So do you want to take that on, Barb?
Well, let's say I presented at a staff PLC learning meeting where like only the second grade teachers are there. And I say, we're going to really hit the second grade math skills. Anybody want to volunteer and be there for an hour? And I might get 2 teachers, I might get all 5 teachers. That really depends. But if I'm willing to focus on just their curriculum, I have a better chance of getting teachers to volunteer. When it's too broad, they're pretty overwhelmed. So I hope that answers that. It's got to hook them. Does that make sense? Bring in a hook for them. So
And the hook is it should be also maybe the opportunity just to make a personal face-to-face
Right.
connection with the family. But I think
Yes.
to your point, it's like that's assumed, right? So
Right.
that then
Right. Right.
I want to, what other questions or comments? I know that if you're in a more urban or larger school district, sometimes you might say, well, you know, Old Wine's different. Well, of course it's different, but it's got its own challenges because of the rural and the geographic disbursement. And that's hard to get kids and families in with transportation barriers. Are there things in your mind, whether for this conversation or the future, things you're really struggling with that you want to say out loud, that you would love some guidance or support on?
Well, I'm going to be the first one to say my biggest struggle is families got very comfortable during COVID not coming. And I have tried a few Zoom things. That has not been, very successful. And I really want to get back to where families come into our buildings more often. I thought it was COVID, and now this year people can come in anytime, and we're really struggling. I just think they got comfortable staying home. And I could be wrong, but I suspect that.
Thank you for sharing. There's a couple of other comments. So Vic talks about local dentists as another one who can come in and talk to parents about local dental services. And it says you can sign up with Colgate and get cases of toothpaste and toothbrushes for the kids. That's another good giveaway. And then it says you can practice for family engagement nights by daily talking with parents. Try to recruit volunteers or help with field trips. You should have every staff person, great parents every day when they pick up children, right? So really engaging the parents when they're coming in. And I want to say one thing and correct actually just the language that I just used, which is parents. And some of you know that the Iowa After School Alliance, because some of you are actually participating in this, put in a federal application for statewide family engagement center grant. And the grant is to support our Iowa efforts in doing a better job engaging family. And one of the things that, and it's just semantics, but I think it was a really good learning for me, I'm going to try and share the screen real quick, is the use of parent versus the use of the word family. And hopefully this is what I was wanting to show. Now, this is like a lot of fancy words, but at the end of the day, I think, we sometimes rely on using the word parent. And I just want to encourage everybody to think about using the word family as much as possible. And so this is just a little bit of research that, sometimes I think research is a funny thing because it's pretty obvious. But the evolution from parent engagement to family engagement is reflecting the evolution, right, of student populations growing more diverse and the need for today's educators to be aware of diverse family engagement dynamics. family engagement departs from the traditional family involvement, usually with a mom and dad, to integrate other existing systems, right? So we all know that our families all look a little different. For instance, my family includes my neighbor who helps on a regular basis. And so I just think it's really important when you're talking to parents or you're talking to kids to be asking questions about their family unit, because as we know, that could be brothers and sisters and grandparents and neighbors and aunts and uncles and godparents. And so it's just a little syntax thing, but I think something as we think about who we're inviting to come and show up with these young people, especially with the stresses and burdens that a lot of working families have right now. Trish is leaving us. Thank you. Any questions, comments? Vic, I want to turn it over to you to make any closing comments or to facilitate any additional conversation you believe we should be having.
Thank you. Well, we talked about this, the Family Engagement Committee meeting, that a lot of our parents never had a successful time in school, and they don't necessarily feel welcome to come into the school. And with the pandemic, again, they were shut out, school was closed. There was a lot of restrictions. So we got to go out of our way now to welcome them back. And, and that's where on a daily basis, that practice, because maybe you have different members of a family coming in on different days to pick up that child. So you want to have something going on every day so you're not, leaving somebody out. But go up and talk to them and say, hey, your child did a great job today. I just wanted to let you know, and make them feel good about coming in. That's little by little, that's going to help you with your attendance on these events. It's building blocks. It's not enough to put out a flyer and say, oh, if we put out a flyer, they'll come.
So I just have to say, I just pinged Billy and I said, Billy, who's that sitting with you? And at the same time, she said, Jordan Colbert has joined me. Our middle school, high school site navigator works with families and students to bring youth and parents together. She creates work in the arts, and she helps parents feel at ease at coming to programming. So Jordan, Billy, are you going to put her on the spot and ask her to talk to us?
Yes, I am, because good morning, everyone. I'm sorry. But since she's been on board, she has created and involved so many parents in our after school program. As you all know, we are working with social and emotional learning. And these are some key elements to making our parents successful as well as our students successful. And some of the kinds of things that Jordan has done, I'm gonna let her talk about it.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. I didn't know I was coming into this, but I'm an artist. I have an artist background. So a lot of the programming I do directly relates back to social and emotional learning. We have a performance and a visual arts component to our program where the kids can really express themselves and then also connect back with the community. We built a branding program where the kids create apparel and design shirts. So they're building and enhancing their relationships in that way, but also learning about design and branding. And then in our performance art program, which Emmett is kind of a leader of that, but I help him to plan. The kids are able to write their own lyrics and perform out in the community as well, which has been really, really fun. But me and Billy have worked a lot together to help build the SEL components and build the families into that. So we prepared a dinner one night and we got to sit down with our parents and really get to know them better, but also learn about their kids from a different perspective. But then also, what was our other event? We did an event where we brought our teachers, our students, and our parents together to kind of educate them a little bit more about SEL and what it means. And the fact that they're really already doing it in their day-to-day lives, but just like having that dialogue, I think really opened up their minds to more.
And I'm sorry. And Flora, I just really want to say, you're a teacher, right? Or you have been, Flora, up here? Fiona. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Listen,
no, that's okay. It's a weird name. It's my parents'
Okay, no,
fault.
no. I'm a retired principal. And what, I don't know, the lady that was before us was talking about, oh, Barb was talking about as far as pictures and things like that. You know, when you're at the petting zoo, and you can
Yeah.
follow me on this, you can have your students come back and talk about what they saw, what they felt, and
Yeah.
that's recalling, that's inferences, that's a whole bunch of stuff that deals with literacy. And it
Yeah.
all kind of depends on how you frame that and how other people can see that. So that's what I call a literary book that kids
Yep.
can put together. So, but anyway, Jordan has been so instrumental in helping us bring families together, and majority of these families, folks, are immigrants, and they don't speak, or they speak, but they're not English fluent. And a lot of times this is a visual, and those students and those parents really get involved in that visual piece. And that's how, and I just can ramble. I'm sorry. I get so excited about our program. I'll be quiet. Thank you.
I'm so glad. And Jordan, thanks for being willing to put on the spot. If you were to, and it's going to get worse, here you go. Last question, I promise. If you were to give any advice to this group of leaders of after-school programming across the state in engaging diverse or immigrant populations specifically, like what are one or two pieces of advice you'd give to this group?
So definitely.
And move over a teeny bit so we can hear you.
Oh,
There you go.
sorry. So definitely kind of like finding out more about their culture, I think, is one of the key components, and finding ways to connect with them and celebrate culture. That would be like the first thing that I would suggest, because like Billy said, the parents usually aren't English speakers. So we really have to find ways to be the conduit. So yeah, I think it's just about connecting to their culture. That's the key component more than anything, and making sure that they see value in who they are.
Wonderful. So beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Vic, those are hard words to top, but I'm going to turn it back to you to close us out.
Well, that's just what I've been advocating all along. Make everyone feel welcome. And, this country was built upon welcoming people for the blessing of freedom. And even today, we still have people that want to come here for the freedom that they have in this country. And, some of you may not know it, but my father was an immigrant to this country. He was a refugee. And, he always taught me that this was the greatest country in the world. And I still believe that. And, I have been to some of the meetings at MARC. And, one of the best people I had working for me is a guy named Abdi, who started at Oak Ridge. He's a very strong work ethic. So, you're going to discover a lot of things about your community by talking with parents. And this should become a daily thing where, you wave to them, go up and have a conversation. They're not going to bite. And the same thing with kids, have regular dialogue with these kids. We're dealing with human beings, not machines. And human beings respond to conversation and dialogue. And these are the things that help us get to know one another. And that's what our kids desperately need today. We've been holed up for almost 2 years, and we need to work on developing those relationships once again.
Thanks, everybody. We really appreciate it. And with that, go get them. Have a great day. Thank you so much. Goodbye.